Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second part of What If Naruto Became Power Hungry. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
When Naruto went missing for more than a day after his strange exit from Tezuna's house, Kakashi was worried sick. He sent shadow clones and summoned his ninken to look for the blonde, and the only reason he didn't go looking himself was because he couldn't leave the rest of his team and Tezuna unprotected with the likes of Zabuza around. He was nearly panicked when he couldn't find any trace of the boy no matter how hard he looked. None of the clones found traces of him, none of the ninken could smell him, and no one seemed to have seen the boy. "Where have you gone, Naruto? Could Zabuza have reached him? I should not have continued with this mission." It didn't help that the night Naruto vanished, he felt massive spikes of chakra that even he, who wasn't a sensor, could feel. When he tried to track them down, he was met with a red barrier that no Reikari could penetrate. By the time the barrier was removed, all he could see was a devastated piece of forest, with trees burned and uprooted, massive areas ripped apart by what appeared to be an extremely powerful windjutsu, and even an area that was completely glassed, as if an explosion powerful enough to incinerate everything in its blast radius with ease, all of which pointed to a very high-level ninja battle. He returned to Tezuna's house and was about to call Konoha to request a team of tracking-focused ninja to come look for Naruto when the same blonde walked through the door. He ignored Kakashi's questions about where he was and approached Inari, unsealing a head from a scroll he was carrying. "It appears you were mistaken. Gatu did not kill me, though his men certainly tried." He tossed Gatu's severed head to the boy, ignored everyone's shocked questions, and collapsed onto the couch, quickly falling asleep. Tezuna took the head and ran out of the house, claiming he had to inform everyone. Kakashi looked at the sleeping blonde, relieved that he was safe. After a week, without Gatu and his thugs, the bridge was finished without incident, the workers were happy, and the town was celebrating their liberation from the tyrant. Kakashi had questioned Naruto about his actions and was dissatisfied with the answers he had received. Naruto's awakening in the past. Naruto had awoken a few hours earlier, and Kakashi had let the blonde take a much-needed bath and eat before questioning him. He was curious as to why the blonde went after Gatu alone, and how he hid from him despite Kakashi's best efforts to find him. Knowing what was to come, Naruto sat down at the table, and Kakashi began, seeing the boy had no intention of starting himself. "What happened, Naruto?" "I pursued Gatu. However, why? He was Tezuna's main threat. Without him here, Tezuna is safe, and our job is done." "That was not your decision," Kakashi stated sternly. "Contrary to what you might believe, Hitaki, I'm not a slave, you don't own me, and I don't need your permission to make my own choices," Naruto scowled bitterly. "Naruto, what made you think I thought of you as my slave?" Kakashi was taken aback. "Why would you not? You're Konoha, and that's all I am to them. A weapon grateful to be used, a slave who must obey without question or perish." "Naruto, you're not a slave," Kakashi said, seeing the look of bitter resentment. "Naturally, I am. I've been since those cretins decided they didn't care enough about me to not make me a fucking human sacrifice." "Your parents," Naruto, Kakashi began but was cut off. "Those cretins lost that right when they turned me into a monster, less than human." Kakashi, seeing that this was going nowhere, changed the subject. "What were you doing? I looked for you but couldn't find you." "I was scouting Gatu's compound to ensure there were no traps or enemies for which I was unprepared." Kakashi said, shaking his head, "Naruto, I'm a Jonin, and I checked Gatu's compound. I believe I would have discovered you. I've gotten a lot of practice hiding from people. Even if my ninken couldn't find you." Naruto sighed before erupting in a plume of smoke. When the smoke cleared, there was a small fly where Naruto stood. The fly circled the room a few times before returning to the chair and returning to Naruto. "Naruto, that was incredible," Kakashi exclaimed, his eyes wide. The number of applications that could be had would make espionage much easier. "You must teach people this technique." "No," Naruto stated flatly. "But Naruto, think about how many lives you could save with it. Wouldn't compare to the number of lives you'd take with this, but I don't care. I figured it out on my own." Either they figure it out on their own or they do without. I'm not assisting them. However, Naruto, they are your comrades. They are only my comrades in the same way that you are your kunai's comrade, Naruto explained. Kakashi sighed sadly, concerned that the blonde saw himself as a tool rather than a person. "But why didn't you tell me you were pursuing Gato? We could have traveled together," he inquired. "I didn't require your assistance." "Naruto, you had no idea what Gato had inside his compound, and even scouting couldn't have picked up everything. We could have kept an eye on you." "Hitaki, I don't trust you to watch my back. How can I know you won't decide your trauma is more important and abandon me when I need you again?" Naruto snarled. Kakashi visibly flinched at this, embarrassedly looking at the blonde and saying, "Naruto, I realize what I did was wrong, but..." "Enough with the excuses, Hitaki. I'm sick and tired of people screwing me over and expecting some nonsense apology to undo all the shit I've been put through because of them. You had your chance, you blew it, and now you come crawling back to me and expect everything to be forgiven after one miserable fucking apology. Please, Naruto, no. I don't believe in second chances, Hitaki, and I will never forgive you or the others, so please leave me alone." Kakashi took a deep breath to calm himself and spoke in the most even tone he could muster. "So, how about Sasuke? You two are friends, and you could have enlisted his assistance." "I would never be able to achieve my goal if I wasn't strong enough to take on Gato's thugs on my own." "How important is this goal to you?" "My goal is the only reason I'm still alive. If I can't achieve it, I might as well die now." Kakashi was taken aback and asked, "Naruto, do you want to die?" "If I did, I would finally be free. It would be my choice, and you would no longer be able to hold me captive." Kakashi was speechless and terrified, believing that the boy he saw as a little brother saw death as an escape, but what hurt him the most was what Naruto said next. "I want to die if only to be free of the people who betrayed me, if only to be free of people like you." End of flashback. After that, Kakashi was visibly shaken and spent most of his time watching Naruto from afar, not wanting to irritate the blonde by trying to talk to him but afraid he'd do something drastic if Kakashi wasn't there to stop him. They guarded the bridge until it was finished but had no more problems with attackers. Even Zabuza, who most of Team 7 believed was still alive, stopped showing up. They assumed that after Gato's death, he had left because he no longer had a job. Everyone except Team 7 had been in a celebratory mood the day they left, with the bridge being named the Great Naruto Bridge after the boy who slew the tyrant Gato. Sasuke and Sakura, who had grown closer as a result of Sakura's slight shift in attitude and their shared interest in Naruto's apparent personality shifts, were perplexed and concerned about their teammate and sensei's situation. While Kakashi tried in vain to concentrate in his book, the blonde himself seemed to be deep in thought, his face marred by a frown. "Hey, Kurama, do you mind taking over for a little while?" Naruto pondered. "Why?" Naruto let out a sigh, attracting the attention of his teammates, but he didn't notice. "You know I'm not good with long periods of contact with people, and we've been surrounded by them since the start of this mission. You know, I never expected one of my containers to ask me to swap and take my place on the cage," Kurama remarked dryly. "The cage keeps you in, but it keeps others out. Of course, I'll take over." Naruto paused for a moment, his head bowed, before continuing to walk without saying anything, concerned about him. Kakashi inquired, Is everything okay, Naruto? Kurama initially ignored him, but when it became clear that he was not going to drop it, they said. The brat is currently out of reach. Kakashi was immediately tense, looking at Naruto and saying, "What exactly did you do to him?" Kurama, who hadn't stopped walking, turned to him, his red eyes flashing, and said, "I took over his body because he needed some alone time with his thoughts and asked me to do so." Kakashi relaxed slightly and continued walking, though he was clearly wary. "Relax, human. The brat requested that I take over, not fight you." Sakura and Sasuke were both intrigued by Naruto's apparent second personality. Kurama, sensing the girl's interest, decided to amuse her. "What exactly is it, little girl?" How? I didn't even try. I can sense people's emotions, and I sensed your curiosity. Can Naruto do it as well? Sasuke inquired. He can, we're partners, and everything I can do, he can do, and vice versa. Is it possible? Is that how he found out about his parents? Kakashi pondered. It isn't, though that is how he found out you were lying to him, Kurama explained. Can you read people's minds? Kakashi was taken aback. No, but I can sense your suspicion, and it wasn't difficult to guess. Are you another Naruto character? Sakura inquired. Not really, but given how well we get along, I might as well be. Who are you then? Sasuke inquired. My name is Kyuubi no Kitsune. What? Sakura inquired, terrified. However, the fourth assassinated the Kyuubi. You can't kill tailed beasts, little girl, we just reform if you do. What that blonde bastard did was seal my power inside a baby so Konoha could use it as a weapon. Kakashi explained tailed beasts and Jinchuriki to his team so they wouldn't see Naruto as the beast but as his container, though he wished Naruto could be there to discuss it with his teammates. Joke's on him, the brat despises him even more than I do. Naruto is just perplexed. He will understand, Kakashi explained. I doubt it. One of the reasons we bonded so easily, despite my hatred for both of my previous containers, was our mutual hatred for Namikaze and his wife. Naruto slumped again before getting up and growling, just as Kakashi was about to retort. When I told you to take over, I didn't mean for you to fuck with them about those bastards. The rest of the journey was spent in silence, Naruto's permanent scowl indicating that he didn't want to talk. The Hokage's office. They arrived in Konoha around noon, and Kakashi dismissed his team, noting that Sasuke and Sakura had gone somewhere together, and Naruto was already on his way to his apartment before he had finished. He went directly to the Hokage's office, where he was finishing his report. We didn't come across any enemy ninjas after that. The bridge was completed, and we returned. I see. You should have known better than to continue on a false mission with a group of genin Kakashi, Hiruzen stated sternly. I know, sir, it was my fault. How is your team doing now? Sakura is improving. She still has some of her fangirl tendencies, but she has grown since we first met. Sasuke's ability has grown by leaps and bounds. He is determined and disciplined, and now that he has awakened his Sharingan, he will continue to improve at an exponential rate. You did an excellent job. Kakashi said, embarrassedly looking away. Actually, Hokage-sama, that's mostly Naruto's doing. He took to assisting their training because he refused to let them slow him down. I've been teaching them teamwork and practice, but Naruto is responsible for the majority of their growth. Is that correct? You'll make a good leader, Hiruzen speculated. You just need to work on motivating your comrades better, Naruto-kun, he thought proudly. How is he getting along? Hiruzen inquired, and Kakashi's face immediately fell. What exactly is it, Kakashi? Naruto's. As far as skills go, he is very good. He is proficient in taijutsu, managed to mimic Tsunade Super Sama's strength, even though at a much lower level, has ninjutsu of all elements and seems to favor countering his opponent's attacks and using combination attacks. I never seen him use genjutsu, but I wouldn't be surprised if. Hiruzen listened to the report and couldn't help but be proud of the boy's decision to become a generalist who exploited weaknesses like him rather than a specialist in a single element or jutsu, but he couldn't help but feel there was a but coming. But his personality is a problem. He appears to have sudden mood swings, going from angry to excited in the span of a few seconds for no apparent reason. He appears to dislike being around people. I saw his discomfort rise throughout the mission, and he would take any excuse to be alone. And because of our shared history, he doesn't respect me as team captain, mostly forcing himself to do my orders and sometimes talking back and refusing to follow them, and at worst he went behind my back and put his life on the line to do something without my help, Kakashi continued. What exactly do you mean, Kakashi? Hiruzen inquired, concerned. During the mission, he had one of his mood swings. He had been angry for a while before he was suddenly eager for something. He left the house and I thought he just went into town or for a walk in the woods. He did that a lot during the mission, but my clones only saw him walking when they watched him. By morning when he didn't return, I searched for him. Neither my clones nor my Ninken could find any trace of him. Where had he gone? He said he was scouting Gatu's compound and showed me this jutsu that turned him into a fly, allowing him to sneak in undetected. That's incredible. Where did he learn it? He claimed to have created it himself, and when I asked him to share it, he claimed to have figured it out on his own and would not share it with anyone. Hiruzen took note of Kakashi's sad expression and waited for him to continue. He sees himself as a weapon, or rather, he believes Konoha sees him as a weapon. He said he felt less than human. How could he think that? I'm not sure, but he seemed convinced that he was a slave to the village, Kakashi said, looking down. He went after Gatu by himself, said he didn't trust me to watch his back, to not abandon him when he needed me, and you know what he said? That if he didn't have the strength to do it alone, he wouldn't be able to accomplish his goal, and that if he couldn't, he might as well die. Does he want to die? Hiruzen inquired, concerned and stunned beyond belief. He knew his upbringing would have affected the boy, but since Naruto didn't show any signs of being affected, he assumed the boy was tougher than he appeared. He said he'd rather die than live without achieving his goal, that he'd rather die than live with the people who abandoned him, people like me. Hiruzen was troubled by this and inquired. Can you tell me what this goal is? No, he never mentioned it, and whenever pressed about it, he said it was personal, Kakashi said, recomposing himself and glad for the change in subject. Do you think he'd be interested in therapy? I'm not sure, he doesn't seem like the type, but with the Kyuubi making it impossible to have a Yamanaka, this appears to be the only option. I just hope he lets us help him, said Hiruzen. Flower Shop Yamanaka. Sasuke and Sakura were walking through the village together, which he hadn't expected to happen. The girl was still madly in love with him, but after they joined forces, he saw her slowly improving as a ninja and as a person, and she was almost tolerable now. They were curious about Naruto's clear dislike towards the fourth Hokage, and after that conversation with the Kyuubi on the road, they had a better understanding of what caused Naruto to hate him so much, even if discovering Naruto had a tailed beast inside him was a shock. The Kyuubi had stated that Naruto despised the fourth for turning Naruto into a Jinchuriki, but they felt there was more to it. They couldn't forget how Naruto had implied that the fourth was his father, and they were going to the one person who might have known more about Naruto than them to see if she knew anything. They entered the flower shop and noticed Ino sitting at the counter, looking bored. Hey, Sasuke, what are you guys doing here? Could we speak with you for a moment, Ino? It's all about Naruto. Ino was taken aback by Sakura's apparent dismissal of the nickname and even calling her by her given name. She motioned them to follow her and led them to one of the back rooms. How are you? What happened to Naruto? No, it's... Did Naruto ever tell you anything about his family? Sakura inquired. You know Naruto's an orphan, Sakura, Ino said sternly. I know, but did he mention his parents? Who were they and what happened to them? He doesn't. I once asked him about it, but he refused to discuss it. I gathered that his parents either died or abandoned him, but he never wants to discuss it. So you, too, don't know. What exactly do you mean? Ino inquired. We're not sure, but we believe Naruto's father is the fourth Hokage. What? That is absurd. He once told us our sensei was a student of the fourth, and now he says his father was Kakashi teacher senseis in our most recent mission. Is it possible? But he despises the fourth. We're not sure, but we believe we know why, or at least part of why. They told Ino about the Kyuubi and what they told Sasuke and Sakura. Ino was shocked but understood why Naruto would keep this a secret. Suddenly, all those times he refused to talk about his family made sense. She looked at the pair and inquired. Could Naruto really be the son of the fourth? We're not sure. We were hoping you'd know something. Ino said with a shake of her head. I don't know, I could see why he'd hate him if that were the case, but I'm not sure. Perhaps we should leave it alone. Naruto clearly despises the man, and I think it's a bad idea to press him on why, Sasuke suggested. But Sasuke the fourth is a hero, Naruto can't hate him, Ino pointed out. He said as he turned to face her. He's prone to rage when it comes to his family. Do you really want to jeopardize your relationship with Naruto for the sake of curiosity? Well, not exactly, but... Then drop it. If he wants to keep his secrets, it's not our place to pry. He'll tell us when he's ready. Several months later. Contrary to popular belief, Naruto was not willing to go through therapy. In fact, he was enraged that they even brought it up, claiming that they only wanted to get into his head in order to control him and that they thought he needed help because he refused to bow his head and gladly be their slave. Kakashi tried to talk to the boy, but he wasn't listening, and after that day, Naruto would glare at him constantly and call him a traitor under his breath, even though he knew he was just trying to help the blonde, but Naruto didn't see it that way and went from being closed and cold to outright antagonistic most of the time. It didn't help that Ino had confronted him about his Jinchuriki status, and while she didn't hold it against him, he was upset that his secret had been exposed without his permission, and it took him months to treat his teammates the same way again. Outside of his ninja duties and the occasional date with Ino, Naruto retreated into his training, spending his time doing exhaustively harsh training for as long as he could before crashing onto bed. Everyone could see it was not healthy, but he refused to listen, and by Kakashi's and Inoichi's, who was the go-to mental health counselor for ninja, advice, they decided to let the blonde be, reasoning his training was a way for him. Team 7 continued to improve over the course of the months. Sakura had become a competent genjutsu user and had begun to learn medical ninjutsu. She had even begun to learn Naruto's super strength technique, though her current skill could barely crush a boulder. Sasuke had completely matured his Sharingan and had greatly improved as a result. He still favored his fire and lightning jutsu but had acquired a few others from Kakashi and Naruto, who let him copy them. He also became much better at taijutsu thanks to Naruto's suggestion of copying other people's taijutsu to both gain unpredictability and be better able to counter them. He finally got a pair of gravity seals from Naruto, nowhere near the ones he used, and that had greatly improved his speed and strength, allowing him to force Kakashi to store his book when they fought. He had also greatly improved his lightning nature since he finally managed to get the shadow clone jutsu from Naruto, though not without a severe warning about not using more than 2 clones at once to avoid chakra exhaustion. Naruto had been the one who had improved the most, thanks to Sasuke granting him access to the Uchiha clan library on the condition that anything he learned there be copied by Sasuke with his Sharingan. He'd gotten much stronger and faster as a result of his new obsession with training, and he could now match Kakashi's speed and shatter large boulders without his super strength. They had earned a reputation as Konoha's strongest genin team, with Sakura at high genin and both Naruto and Sasuke at high chunin in terms of strength and skill. It was assumed that both would make jonin very soon after making chunin in the upcoming exams. Naruto was attempting to ignore the square-shaped brush with eyes in the middle of the street that was following him. After an incident in which he was turning in a mission, Konohamaru had begun following him in the hopes of learning from him, much to Naruto's chagrin. Konohamaru, I'm not sure what kind of brush you're using, but you're not fooling anyone. Konohamaru emerged from his disguise and said, "Of course you'd figure it out, boss." Naruto sighed and was about to respond when he noticed Sakura approaching. "Hey Naruto, Kakashi-sensei requested that I inform you that we have a meeting today?" "All of a sudden? Wasn't it our day off today?" He suddenly felt a very bloodthirsty presence nearby, which Kurama named Shukaku. At long last, they've arrived. "Are you certain about this?" "I'm surprised. I thought you'd be less than thrilled at the prospect of reforming into the 10 Tails. If we do everything correctly, I will still be in control, and contrary to what the old man said, I don't care about peace or anything else." "But what about your siblings? Don't you care about them?" "I guess you rubbed off on me." "I don't hate them, but you're my partner, and if that means going against them, I'll do it." "Thank you so much, Kurama. You're the best." "Of course I am, and it's not like I can't manifest into a clone whenever I want so I can have my freedom while also not worrying about being sealed again." Konohamaru had said something at this point that prompted Sakura to chase him down and into the Suna team. When Naruto saw him hiding behind Sakura, who was wary of them, she was relieved and said, "Naruto. There you have it." Naruto smirked as he walked past her and up to Kankuro. "And what do we have here?" "Great, another wuss. Do I have to beat you as well?" Naruto laughed as he looked Kankuro in the eyes. "Oh, I'd like to see you try, Kankuro of the desert, Kage's middle child." Kankuro was perplexed by the blonde's apparent knowledge of him, as well as the alarm bells ringing in his head. "Are you familiar with us?" Tamari inquired from behind her brother's back. "I do, Tamari of the desert, Kage's oldest child." "Who are you?" she inquired. "You may refer to me as Naruto, Konoha Genin." "You'll be in the Chunin exams as well, good, I'm looking forward to dissecting you," Kankuro said, irritated at being ignored. "You'll be let down. You're no match for me." Kankuro growled and was about to punch Naruto when he was stopped by a voice. "Kankuro, stop, you're embarrassing us, and if you keep doing this, I'll kill you." A red-haired boy appeared in a burst of sand, causing Kankuro to freeze and retreat in fear. The boy then turned to Naruto and said, "Mother desires your blood." Naruto surprised everyone by mockingly asking, "Is that so?" Before approaching the redhead, getting within inches of his face, and hissing in his ear, "Come and take it then." The entire Suna team was taken aback by the blonde. Everyone in Suna knew that provoking Gaara was suicide, and yet here was this blonde actively taunting him. Sakura was wary as well. She knew Naruto was strong, but the redhead gave her a strange vibe that she didn't like. Sand shot towards Naruto, encasing him in a cocoon, which he blasted apart from the inside out with a punch before answering another one. Gaara moved his sand to block it, but it was blasted apart. He shot sand at Naruto's chest, but Naruto jumped and used the sand as support to kick downwards at Gaara while upside down. The redhead blocked and attempted to grab Naruto's leg with the sand, but was met with a punch from Naruto's other arm, forcing him to block instead. Gaara sent sand spikes at the blonde who dodged and moved to punch him, Gaara's instincts told him the punch was dangerous and he sent a wave of sand to push the blonde back. Naruto blasted the wave back but had to retreat when the sand on the floor tried to impale his legs. He was already moving when Gaara shot a sand spear, not at him but at Sakura nearby. She prepared to dodge but remembered Kono. Naruto growled and moved towards Gaara, much faster than before, and drew his fist back for a punch, but it proved ineffective when Naruto's fist punched through all his sand like it was nothing, the blow connecting to Gaara's hasty block and pushing him back, leaving his arms numb and the sand armor around it cracked. Kakashi appeared and stopped the fight before Naruto could make another move. "You too, save it for the exams." "What do you mean?" Sakura inquired. "I did nominate you," Naruto said as he looked at Gaara. "Be careful, or your tailed beast will not save you from me." They had arrived at the exams only to be met with hostility. The other Konoha genin were fine, if a little too eager to defeat the strongest genin team. Neji Hyuga in particular hadn't believed they were worthy of the title and had said that he would defeat them and prove he was the much more friendly Rock. Lee had challenged both Naruto and Sasuke, but Naruto politely declined, claiming that there would be plenty of opportunities to fight during the exams. Before the first exam, Naruto had met Kabuto and impressed the others with his mission record and strength assessment. Back in time, before the first exam. "I have intel on every prospective Chunin taking the exams this year," Kabuto said, holding up the cards he was carrying. "Show me what you've got on Gaara of the Desert and Naruto Uzumaki," Sasuke demanded. "Really, Sasuke, we train together all the time, and you know my skill set far better than any card could," Naruto said. "We never know what trump card you're hiding that the cards can tell about," Sasuke reasoned. "Gaara of the Desert," said Kabuto. 35D ranks, 4C ranks, and 2B ranks, has sand control, and has never been scratched during any of his missions. Most of the genin around were taken aback by this. Completing that many missions without taking any damage requires some serious skills. He's also a bloodthirsty maniac who kills all his opponents and has a sand shield that reacts on its own and is extremely difficult to penetrate, as well as a sand armor that must be pierced if you want to inflict any damage on him, Naruto explained. "Do you recognize him?" Kabuto inquired. "We fought, but our fight was cut short before either of us could get serious." "I see. Anyway, Naruto Uzumaki has 45D ranks, 3C ranks, 2B ranks, and an A rank," Kabuto stated. "What are his abilities?" Sasuke insisted. "You know what, why not throw Sasuke's card in there as well?" Naruto joked. Naruto is a ninjutsu specialist, a generalist who prefers to exploit enemy weaknesses, with jutsu from every element. He commonly uses clones, and he's known to have some fuinjutsu knowledge, though it's unknown if he can use it in battle. He also is proficient in taijutsu, having Jonin-level speeds and is very strong even with his base strength. "What exactly do you mean by base strength?" Kiba inquired. "He is known to have recreated Tsunade of the Sannin's super strength technique." Naruto's abilities astounded and impressed all of the genin. "Do you have anything else?" Kabuto inquired of Naruto. "Not really, there's more, but I'm sure Sasuke is already aware of it." Sasuke mumbled but nodded as Kabuto continued. "Sasuke Uchiha has the same mission record as Naruto, favors the use of fire and lightning jutsu, has a taijutsu style focused on speed and use of his Sharingan, has low Jonin level speed and hits relatively hard, though his Fig Thing style is focused on blitzing the enemy with fast and precise blows or using combination attacks when fighting with his teammates. He has a vast array of jutsu from his." Everyone looked to Naruto to see if he had anything to say, but he didn't, so Sasuke shrugged. End of flashback. Unlike the Konoha genin, the foreign ones had shown open hostility towards the Rookie 9 and Team 7 in particular, even attempting to intimidate them with less than stellar results. The first stage of the exam was simple. All three of them were knowledgeable enough to pass on their own and intelligent enough to figure out the meaning of the test quickly. Sasuke used his Sharingan to copy one of the hidden proctors, while Sakura used Genjutsu to make the one sitting next to her pass her the answers via code, and Naruto simply used one of his clones to see the answers and knew them when the clone dispelled. He had been afraid Sakura would back out and was prepared to threaten her into continuing, but she had gathered her courage on her own and had chosen to take the 10th question. They eventually passed the first exam and were on their way to the Forest of Death for the second. When they arrived, Naruto immediately recognized Orochimaru in his Kusa Genin disguise, as well as Karin and her team in the corner. I wonder what Naruto would have thought if he knew another Uzumaki was so close to him, he chuckled. Naruto? Sakura inquired. He said, shaking his head. Sorry guys, I have to go say hello to someone. I'll be right back. When he approached Karin and her team, one of the genin looked at him and said, What exactly do you want? He ignored him and smiled at Karin, who was experiencing strange sensations from Naruto's chakra. Are you an Uzumaki, aren't you? What does it matter? Karin inquired, wary. There's no need to be afraid. I'm one too, Naruto explained. Are you? Karin inquired, surprised that she would run into another member of her deceased clan here. Naruto smiled as he kissed the back of her palm. Naruto Uzumaki, it's a pleasure to meet you. Karin Uzumaki, she said, blushing. She couldn't help but be perplexed, both by Naruto's chakra and his demeanor. He was the perfect gentleman, but she could see the confidence he carried himself with, as if he was dangerous and took pride in it. It was the same with his chakra, comforting and warm, but with a hidden ruthlessness beneath and something clearly very powerful even deeper beneath it. Well, Karin, I hope you do well in these exams, but just in case, I'll leave you with a gift. When he kissed her hand, a seal appeared for a split second before disappearing. If you ever need assistance, just channel chakra through that seal, and I'll come for you as soon as I can. She nodded, stunned, with a light blush on her cheeks, staring at the seal in her hand. Naruto returned to his team, only to be met with a glare from Sakura. How can you go flirting with random girls when you're with Ino? Okay Sakura, first and foremost, there's nothing official going on between me and Ino, so I'm free to flirt with as many girls as I want, just as she is free to flirt with whoever she wants. Second, it's not like that, she's an Uzumaki as well, we're from the same clan. Are the Uzumaki a clan? Sasuke inquired. They had their own village before being destroyed by a three-way alliance. They moved to get their scroll, and Anko threw a kunai at him, which he caught midair and moved to press against her neck when she dashed at him. Wow, brat, you're pretty good. Orochimaru then appeared behind them and licked Anko's neck cut. You should be careful, you could hurt someone with that, he joked. Naruto simply tossed the kunai to Anko and said, With your tongue trick, I'm surprised you have to look for prepubescent boys to give hickeys to. They should be lining up. Orochimaru's eyes widened, but he kept them closed as Naruto walked back to his team and they proceeded to their gate to begin the exam. The Forest of Death. Naruto turned to his teammates as they landed on a branch after jumping through the trees for nearly an hour and were somewhere in the middle of the forest. Alright, guys, we have the Earth Scroll, but we need the Heaven one. Anyone have a plan? Do you not have one? Sakura inquired, surprised. Naruto seemed to be prepared for anything that came their way. I do, but first I'd like to hear yours. We should go to the tower, ambush one of the teams with both scrolls, and steal theirs, Sakura suggested. Good plan, but the time limit is 5 days. Any team near the tower either has the same idea as us or is good enough to get both scrolls. If possible, we should avoid looking for enemies in a trap-filled area. We should split up, go hunting for enemy teams, and then meet up, Sasuke suggested. No, there are a lot of enemies and we don't know what we can do. If we get caught by some strange jutsu or by surprise, we're dead. Plus Neji's team is no joke and Gaara is a Jinchuriki just like me, with them roaming around. While we should be able to beat them, we'll just draw attention, and if Gaara draws on his tailed beast, it will be bad. He is? Sakura inquired, fearful that the deranged redhead would grow to be as powerful as Naruto claimed tailed beasts were. Can we beat him? Wondered Sasuke. I might if I draw from Kyuubi's chakra, but I've never tried, so I don't know, and you, too. If you manage to use the Sharingan to suppress his tailed beast, Sakura has no chance because she has nothing to counter him, and Jinchuriki are immune to Genjutsu. They both nodded as Naruto's story continued. Sakura, while you can defend yourself fairly well, your skill set is mostly support-based, and with this many powerhouses out and about, it's better if you stay behind us and try to save chakra for any emergency healing we may require. She nodded in response. Okay, here's my plan. I can sense a few teams in my sensory range. We'll track them down and ambush them together. Once we have our scroll, we'll wait until nightfall and sneak up to the tower. But if we do that, we won't be able to fight. I'd like to put my strength to the test, Sasuke stated. Once we have our scroll, we can find some teams for you to fight with, but the goal must come first. Sasuke nodded, pleased. They went on the hunt and discovered a group of aimed genin hiding in the brush below, just as Sasuke was about to move. Naruto signaled him to stop and watch. Natsumi Uzumaki emerged from the trees, battered and with her clothes ripped, and stumbled onto the enemy camp, breathing heavily and saying, "Help, my team was killed. I managed to escape, but I can barely walk anymore," she coughed. "What have we got here?" According to one of the genin. "A lost little tree, it appears," the other said. "Please," she said, coughing again. "I'm willing to do anything." "Whatever you say." At this point, both Sasuke and Sakura were ready to defend the twin-tailed blonde, with only Naruto standing in their way. The girls stumbled into one of their arms and said, "I just have one thing to tell you first." "What exactly is it?" She smirked and added. Boom, she exploded, killing the genin holding her and knocking the other two back. Naruto burst out laughing as Sakura and Sasuke looked at him as if he was crazy. When he stopped laughing, he saw their horrified and confused expressions and said, "Don't worry, it was just my clone." Sakura was enraged, while Sasuke simply said with the best poker face he could muster, "Naruto, you're a jerk." "I know," Naruto said with a smile, motioning for the genin who were standing up and saying, "You were looking for a fight." They tied them up and neutralized the genin fairly easily, despite being stunned and injured. They went through their belongings and discovered another earth scroll, which the other genin chose to wake up at this time and said, "Oh, Hikari, what happened?" "Hikari is no longer alive." "He is," Naruto stated. "You're a jerk. Son of a B***tch. I am that. You cretin, I'll kill you. You have no idea how correct you are, but you will not kill me." Before he said anything, the genin growled at him. "You have the scroll. Let us go." "We lost." "No, I doubt it. You were all too willing to do unspeakable things to poor Natsumi-chan." He mockingly said, even transforming into his female form and saying, "And I'm just a maiden who has been injured and is defenseless." She said this innocently before returning her attention to Naruto, who laughed. "You scare me at times, brat," Kurama said from within the seal. "I'm proud of that," he reflected. "What will you do with them?" Sasuke inquired. Naruto simply tapped them on the forehead, causing a seal to form in the genin to lose control of their bodies before tying each of them to a tree and saying, "There are many hungry animals in the forest, so I propose we leave them with a gift." Sakura, who had been unusually quiet the entire time, suddenly said, "No." Naruto gave her an odd look and asked, "What do you mean no?" "They're rapists, or would have been if that had been a real girl, and I'm going to kill them myself." Naruto watched as Sakura drew a kunai and approached the paralyzed forms of the two genin, looking them in the eyes and saying, "Monsters like you have no right to exist." She then slit one of their throats and inserted the kunai into the other's brain. She took a few steps back, exhaling a shaky breath, before Sasuke placed his hand on her shoulder and said, "You did well." Sakura was able to recompose herself as a result, and she followed them back to the trees in silence. The second ambush was led by Sasuke, who killed one genin with a thrown kunai before he knew what hit him and burned the second with a fireball. He faced the third in taijutsu as Naruto had let him take the lead, and Sakura was still quiet in the back, though Naruto could feel her coming to terms with her actions and feelings. The third one was led by Sakura, who had gained some confidence and asked for the lead. She put one under a genjutsu that caused him to attack the other and used her super strength to break the third's ribs, puncturing his lung and killing him. She appeared better than before and shrugged off Naruto's concerned question. Before Sasuke killed him, the genin used genjutsu to kill his former ally. They found the Heaven Scroll and proceeded, Sasuke ambushing teams that Naruto detected, while Sakura sat in the back and asked to lead only once more. By nightfall, they had defeated 7 teams and set up camp in a remote clearing, away from prying eyes. Naruto insisted that they had expended a lot of energy and that they should rest for a few hours before proceeding to the tower. Sakura was disappointed to learn that she would have to go without a shower and eat food from the forest, but Naruto took pity on her and opened a large container of water and a few boxes of food from a scroll in his pocket. He stated, "It pays to be prepared." They all took quick, albeit cold, showers and ate. Naruto stood guard, claiming that as an Uzumaki he didn't need sleep and could go for days at a time without getting tired. They agreed and fell asleep in one of the tents. While waiting, Naruto noticed a very familiar signature and moved towards it, leaving a clone behind to keep an eye on the camp. He dashed through the trees and met the signature in a clearing far from the camp. The Kusa genin stopped at the other end of the tree and spoke. "Good day, Naruto-kun." "Orochimaru. Could you tell me how you knew it was me?" "I have my methods," Naruto smirked. "I see, and based on your earlier comment, you also know what I want." Orochimaru interpreted Naruto's lack of response as a yes and proceeded. "And since you don't appear to have warned the Hokage, you're either suicidal or believe you can beat me. Why not have both?" With a chuckle, Naruto said. Before Orochimaru could respond, Naruto rushed at him, threw a punch, and Orochimaru barely managed to put up a hasty block, which didn't help as Orochimaru was blasted through several trees before he could straighten himself and land. "That was as powerful as Tsunade," he exclaimed, stunned. Naruto moved to hit him again, but this time he anticipated the blonde's speed and redirected the blow into one of the trees, which shattered on impact. He attempted to punch the blonde, but Naruto dodged and moved to backhand him, which he ducked and hit in the stomach. He pointed his sleeves at Naruto and said, as Naruto flew back from the blow before landing unharmed, that it felt like hitting a steel wall. Shadow Snake hands with hidden shadows. Dozens of snakes emerged from his sleeves, aimed at Naruto, who had only flashed through hand seals before saying anything. Majestic Destroyer Flames, Fire Style. Naruto spit a massive wave of fire, burning the snakes and forcing Orochimaru to jump up the trees. Naruto followed him and stood another branch across him, a cocky smile on his lips. "You have a lot of surprises, Naruto-kun. You haven't yet seen anything." When the very characteristic bar-like eyes and markings under them of Sage Mode appeared in Naruto, Orochimaru's eyes widened. "How?" Shocked, he inquired. Orochimaru felt a hit on his left side, shooting him through the trees and into the ground below, and Naruto smirked before blurring out of sight. He snapped out of his shock and immediately jumped to avoid an axe kick that opened a massive crater in the forest floor, and he immediately shot more snakes at Naruto, whose bites barely pierced his skin. He punched Orochimaru, only for that one to be revealed as a clone. He immediately turned to the real Orochimaru with a large grin on his lips, indicating that he knew it was a clone but was having too much fun to care, giving Orochimaru enough time to cast his own jutsu. Scorching Flames, Fire Style. He spit a massive wave of fire at Naruto, who responded with his own jutsu. Water Style, Crushing Wave, by Sage Art. The water wave Naruto spit completely out Orochimaru's flames and slammed into him, tossing him to the forest floor below, several uprooted trees crashing onto him. Who the hell is this kid? Wondered Orochimaru as he rose from the blow. Calm down, Naruto. You're getting carried away and forgetting why we came here. Naruto, on the other hand, was not paying attention and blurred through hand seals before speaking. Sage Art, Thunderclap Lightning Style. A bolt of lightning flew off Naruto's hands and into Orochimaru, who managed to avoid the bolt and the resulting explosion but was singed as a result. That's it, this is what I'm looking for, Naruto exclaimed, almost maniacally laughing. I'm so alive. He dashed at Orochimaru, who was struggling to keep up with the blonde, and it was clear from the damage he was causing to the environment that he had begun using super strength in conjunction with Sage Mode. He gained some ground and bit his thumb before slamming his hand on the ground. Hachiman Gates Summoning Jutsu. Yes, Naruto exclaimed. Make this enjoyable for me, and keep going. He drew his first back and slammed it into the gates with all the strength he could muster, causing them to buckle but not break. It's pointless, Naruto-kun, those gates aren't going to break, Orochimaru said before launching a fireball at Naruto from atop the gates. Naruto jumped up a branch after dodging. Is that correct? He cackled and reached for the sky. Naruto, you're barely keeping Sage Mode as it is, don't use that jutsu, and remember why we're here, Kurama said. Storm clouds began to form in the sky, circling above Naruto, cackled with lightning that lit up the darkened skies, and seemed to rage on and on before Naruto prepared to bring his hand down and shout. Sage Style. Storm. Here, the rush of memories caused him to lose focus, causing the jutsu to dissipate and him to snap out of his battle-induced mania. However, the sky remained cloudy. When Naruto abruptly stopped what appeared to be a very powerful jutsu, the blonde jumped from the tree and onto the top of his gate, clearly out of Sage Mode, and held his hands in a peaceful motion. Sorry about that. Being forced to wear a mask all the time does nothing for my sanity, and when I get to let loose, I occasionally blow up. Orochimaru cautiously nodded, and the blonde smiled and said, Anyway, I'm not your enemy. I just needed you to see me as an equal so we could negotiate properly. Oh, on what exactly? Orochimaru asked, amusement replacing wariness in his voice, though Naruto could tell he was still wary. Sasuke, I know you want him as your new vessel, and there is something I would like from you in exchange for not interfering and not spilling the beans on your invasion. He could feel Orochimaru's surprise when he mentioned the invasion, so he turned to him and asked. And what exactly do you want? Naruto said with a smile. Minato Namikaze's DNA. Earlier in the day, at the camp. What's going on? Sasuke asked as he awoke to the sounds of distant battle. He saw Naruto at the edge of the camp, looking towards the distance to where the sounds seemed to be coming from. He inquired. Naruto shook his head but did not respond, and Sasuke, frustrated with his friend, demanded. Naruto. I'm not sure. Okay. The boss sensed something approaching the camp and moved to engage, and I was just left here to guard the camp. Sasuke growled at this, saying that it was typical of Naruto to flee to fight and leave them behind. Protect Sakura, I'm on my way to find Naruto. The clone nodded, but he was already rushing through the trees, looking for his lost teammate. The clone merely created another one before it popped, informing the original. When Sasuke arrived at the battleground, he found a devastated piece of woodland, with trees uprooted and shattered, the ground singed by what appeared to be a powerful lightning jutsu, and a massive gate with Naruto and a pale-faced man standing on top. He approached warily, but saw Naruto didn't seem to dislike the man, which he found difficult to believe given the obvious aftermath of their battle. Who is this, Naruto? Meet Orochimaru of the Sannin, Sasuke. Orochimaru was one of Konoha's most heinous traitors, yet he was talking to Naruto as if it were nothing. It's a pleasure to meet you, Sasuke-kun. And you wonder why people think you're a pedophile, Naruto said, causing a tick mark to appear above Orochimaru's eye. What exactly do you want? Sasuke inquired. I'll give you enough power to kill Itachi. Sasuke's first instinct was to accept, but he looked at Naruto, who simply shrugged and said, Don't look at me. It's your decision, and you know I have no affection for Konoha. I'm not about to sell you out. How will you bestow power on me? Sasuke inquired. Alright, I'll give you my mark, your hiki, you mean, Naruto joked, causing Orochimaru to get another tick mark. My mark will give you more power than you have ever had. Instead of responding, Sasuke turned to Naruto and inquired. Didn't you two have a fight? We did, Naruto admitted, resigned to the fact that he had been discovered. How did you find a Sannin to date? He inquired. I'd say I did more than match him, Naruto joked, eliciting a sigh from Orochimaru about brats who didn't respect their elders. Damn it Naruto, since when have you been this strong? In frustration, Sasuke yelled. Since before we met, Naruto said, sighed, and added. Look, Sasuke, I apologize for lying to you, but I also have a goal, and honestly, would you have told me if it meant risking my stopping you from killing Itachi? Sasuke paused for a moment before shaking his head and saying. How did you get so powerful? I've been training for years, but I didn't start improving as quickly as I would have liked until you started assisting me when I became a genin. Orochimaru was clearly interested in the answer as well. Honestly, thousands of shadow clones have been training constantly since I was 6 years old. Did you learn Sage Mode from shadow clones? Orochimaru inquired doubtfully. Of course, not just shadow clones, but you don't expect me to reveal all my secrets like that, do you? I was never your competitor, was I? Sasuke inquired. No, not in power, Naruto stated. But you can be. I've been training you for this long because I wanted you to be able to compete with me, to give me the thrill of fighting a peer. Sasuke turned to face Orochimaru and said. Will your power allow me to kill Itachi? Yes, it will. Then I accept, said Sasuke. Orochimaru smiled before stretching his neck and biting Sasuke, leaving a black mark on him. Sasuke fell to his knees in pain before passing out. Orochimaru laughed before looking at Naruto and saying. On the day of the invasion, I'll bring you a sample. When Naruto felt a sensation in the back of his mind, he sighed and created a clone to carry Sasuke back to camp while he went the opposite direction. Are you going somewhere? Orochimaru inquired. Just to play the hero, I suppose, he explained, turning to Orochimaru and saying, the Uzumaki girl is off limits, understand? Are you in love, Naruto-kun? Hey, I'm not the 50-year-old who gives hickeys to prepubescent boys and covets their bodies. Naruto dashed away, leaving Orochimaru muttering about his lack of respect for legendary ninja. In a different part of the forest. Karin had been tearing through the forest for a while now. Her team had been attacked and they had lost their scroll in the first few hours of their exams. They were lucky they hadn't been killed. She had discovered another team, but no matter how battered and bruised her team was, she wasn't going to risk being killed over a scroll. As night fell, they decided to set up camp in a nearby cave to rest and recuperate, hoping to get both scrolls the next day. Of course, because she had more stamina than the others and was a censor, she was assigned guard duty and had spent most of the night near the cave's entrance making sure no enemies were sneaking up on them. This meant that when she sensed the massive bear that had returned to its home only to discover a very edible group of genin resting there, she awoke her teammates, but they were hesitant to give up their campsite over a stupid bear, as they called it. They had run after that, but the bear was deceptively fast for its size, and while she could feel life signatures she couldn't see in the dark. Her second teammate had been injured by a branch that broke and caused him to fall to the forest floor below, twisting his ankle and pushing her towards the bear when she came to help him. This caused her glasses to fall off, leaving her searching in the dark for the bear's signature, which was slowly approaching her. She was so desperate that when she remembered what the blonde had said before the exam began, she immediately followed his instructions. She heard screams as the bear found her teammate, who hadn't been able to go far with an injured leg and ended up going towards the bear rather than away from it while fumbling around in the dark. She could feel the blonde enter her regular sensory range at high speeds while the bear finished with her now ex-teammate and moved towards her, but she was so terrified that she began whimpering on the floor and all she could think was, "I don't want to die, please, save me." She heard the bear roar as it stood over her and raised its massive paw over her for a split second before hearing a loud thud and the bear collapsing, dead. She felt comforted by the warmth of the presence in her senses as a hand grabbed her own and helped her to her feet, before an equally warm hand wiped the tears from her eyes and placed her glasses in her face. "Are you all right?" Naruto inquired. She could only nod dumbly as the same blonde comforted her by holding her hand and smiling warmly. "I'm glad you're okay." My group," she stammered as she tried to look in the direction of the screams, only for Naruto to cup her cheek and say softly, "Don't look, he's already gone." She let out a soft sob at this before Naruto squeezed her hand and asked, "How close are you two?" She said with a shake of her head. "And no, they'll blame me because I wasn't born in Kusa, and they don't like outsiders. This appears to be a place that does not deserve you. But where would I go? I don't have anyone else who would welcome me, and I'm all alone." Naruto shook his head and placed his hands on her shoulders. She missed having his warmth in her hands. "We're never alone. There's always someone out there who will be there for us, even if that person is sometimes ourselves." He smiled at her and continued, "It doesn't have to be in your case. I'm here for you if you want me, both as an Uzumaki to another and as Naruto to Karin." "What do you mean?" she inquired, her voice hopeful. "I do." She embraced him. She sobbed and hugged him, and he kept her company until she calmed down, at which point he said, "The forest is dangerous. Come with me to my team's campsite. By morning, we'll be heading to the tower, and you can leave if you want. You can even stay at my apartment if you don't want to return to your hotel." She blushed slightly and followed him back to the camp, making sure not to get too far away from him. Naruto grimaced as he suddenly remembered something. "You'll never let me forget this one, will you?" he wondered. "Never," Kurama said, laughing. The following day, Sakura expected a lot of things when she woke up in the morning, but she didn't expect to find the same redhead girl Naruto had been flirting with sleeping in his bed while the blonde himself sat on the outskirts of the camp, preparing some food for them. When Sasuke awoke an hour earlier, Naruto had modified his curse mark, claiming that Konoha would never let him keep it unsealed. He made it so that it was invisible while on standby or stage 1, but he informed Sasuke that he should avoid using it against any Hyuga as his work should be Sharingan proof, which Sasuke tested himself, but he couldn't guarantee his work was Byakugan-proof while active. They both decided to keep Orochimaru a secret in order to avoid being caught lying about their encounter with the snake Sannin, but Naruto did reveal the events of his rescue of Karin. Sakura looked somewhat jealous that the other girl got a knight in shining armor, as every girl dreams of, while Sasuke made sure to comment on how Konoha's ladiesman attacked again. Karin blushed but didn't deny anything. Naruto had also privately spoken to Sasuke about keeping his true strength hidden. He agreed, but asked Naruto to teach him a jutsu. Naruto smirked as he considered what jutsu he would teach the Uchiha. "It's time to return what I stole," he reasoned. They made their way to the tower after packing up camp. Naruto asked Karin to guide them, wanting to make the girl feel wanted, and thanks to her they avoided a few teams roaming the area. When they arrived at the tower and opened both scrolls, Iruka emerged from the smoke and said, "Congratulations on passing the exam, and who's the lady?" "My name is Karin," she said, standing beside Naruto. "Her team was killed, and I rescued her, and we escorted her here," Naruto explained. "I see," Iruka said, turning to Naruto and giving the boy a proud look, which irritated the blonde. He then gave a speech about what the two scrolls meant and led them to the resting area where they would wait for the rest of the exam to pass. He offered to escort Karin back to the village proper, but she instead turned to Naruto and asked, "May I use your room?" While Sakura was mortified and Sasuke and Iruka gave the boy proud and jealous looks, Naruto ignored them and said, "Of course, why not?" The rest of the second exam went off without a hitch. The arriving teams were assigned rooms in the tower and, for the most part, stayed in them. Sakura had gotten some tips from Naruto on how to improve her super strength and had spent most of the time practicing them and trying to improve her chakra reserves, so Team 7 spent most of their time in Naruto's room, since he had placed seals in it to prevent anyone from spying. Though the others assumed Sasuke had been meditating, Naruto knew he had been training to get used to his curse mark. He couldn't train it in practice because he didn't want anyone spying on his training, and Naruto had said he would rather avoid placing seals everywhere so that no one could study them, but he could still get used to it being on his body. Surprisingly, Naruto was the only one who was not training. Karin had been drawn to the seals he had used, particularly the one he had used to track her down, and had asked him to teach her more, though he was fairly certain it was more to learn than to spend time with him. He'd spent most of his time teaching her sealing lessons, which Sasuke and Sakura would occasionally join in on, though he still had his clones training in the mindscape as usual. Time flew by, and soon it was time to begin the third exam preliminaries. Naruto was eager to see who he would face. He hoped he would face someone other than Kiba, as he had no desire to fight Kiba. The prospective Chunin made their way to the center of the arena, where Sarutobi delivered a speech about the importance of the exams and how they were a mock war between allied nations. The proctor arrived, and the board that would determine who would fight was revealed. As Naruto thought, it began to flash through names. Come on, give me someone to have fun with." It flashed for a few more seconds before stopping, and the names displayed made Naruto groan. Kiba Inuzuka vs. Naruto Uzumaki. Damn, I had to get Muttboy of all people, Naruto reflected. Good luck, brat, Kurama joked. Naruto grumbled, Kurama, shut up or I'll make you fight the damn mutt. Kiba mocked Naruto for having his head down and grumbling to himself. What's the matter, loser? Are you afraid I'll kick your $1? Kiba, should I remind you that I won every single sparring match we had at the academy? Kiba said, growling. Stupid academy rules aren't going to save you now. I've got Akamaru by my side, and we're going to beat your $1. Naruto paused for a moment before speaking. You know what, I'll just get this out of the way and hopefully get a real challenge soon. Kiba was enraged by the insult and said, That's it, I'm not going to hold back, I'm going to kick your ass into next week. As the others moved towards the bleachers, they both got into fighting positions. Once the arena was clear, the proctor gave them the signal to begin. Ready. Fight. Kiba rushed towards Naruto and moved to punch him. Naruto caught the fist and pushed Kiba back, but made no move to capitalize on the opening. Kiba tried again, this time going for a sidekick. Naruto grabbed him again, but this time he spun Kiba, causing the boy to fall on his back. He said, "Look, Kiba, I'm trying to be nice and give you a chance to show what you're capable of, but if you don't up your game, I'll just knock you out." Kiba growled at him and said as he stood up, "Well, let's see about that." Kiba went through the hand seals and said, "Fang against Fang." Kiba spun quickly and flew at Naruto, who easily dodged the attack. Kiba then flew back at Naruto, who easily dodged again. Kiba became irritated by this and came to a halt near Akamaru, where he made a hand seal and said, "Alright, Akamaru, human-beast mimicry." Both Kiba and Akamaru screamed as they transformed into more feral-looking Kibas. Fang twin over Fang. They both flew at Naruto at much faster speeds and attempted to hit him from two different angles. Naruto jumped over one and moved to the side to avoid the other, and as they returned for a second assault, Naruto shook his head and said, "I'm done with this." As they approached him, he blocked both whirlwinds with his hands, causing them to slow and stop. Before they could react, Naruto slammed both of them together, causing one to turn back to Akamaru and the other to a normal-looking Kiba. Naruto tossed Akamaru to the side before luring Kiba in, grabbing him by the neck and lifting him into the air. "Is this really your best effort?" Naruto inquired, disappointed. "I suspected you were frail, but this is pathetic." Kiba growled as he attempted to break Naruto's grip. Akamaru attempted to attack Naruto from behind, but Naruto simply swung Kiba and baited the dog aside. When the boy increased his escape attempts in anger, he punched the boy in the chest, not using his super strength but still strong enough to break a few bones. "What is it about you that irritates me, Kiba?" Naruto asked, and he didn't wait for the other boy to respond before hitting him again, breaking more bones and eliciting a pain cry from him. "You exude confidence while being pathetically weak." Another blow, this time to his stomach, causing the boy to forcefully exhale all the air in his lungs. All bark and no bite, this time to the face, breaking his nose and a few teeth. Arrogant, he slammed the boy onto the floor, causing it to crack. Worthless, Naruto drew his fist back and used his super strength to punch Kiba, sending the boy flying across the arena and crashing into a wall with such force that he sunk into it. Naruto walked to the bleachers after the proctor announced his victory, past a glaring Kurenai, a hesitant Hinata, and a frowning Shino. He walked over to where his team was, and Sakura couldn't help but ask, "Did you have to be so cruel to him?" Naruto turned to face her and said, "I told you before, Sakura, I don't like arrogant people, and he was certainly far too weak to speak as loudly as he did." "That was pretty harsh, Naruto," Kakashi said. Naruto turned to face Kakashi and said, "Sakura had the same problem as Kiba, but unlike Kiba, she did something about it." "I don't hate weakness, Kakashi, I just can't stand those who choose to be weak and powerless when they don't have to," he sighed. The board flashed again before any further discussion could take place, and when it did, Sasuke grinned and Naruto groaned. "Of course he gets a new opponent," Naruto reasoned. Rock Lee vs. Sasuke Uchiha. As he approached the green-clad boy, Sasuke smirked and jumped down at the arena, where Rock Lee was already waiting for him. "Yosh, I'll show you my youth power." "Don't be shy, I'd like to see how far I've come," Sasuke said. "I, too, want to test my strength," Lee said, smiling. "Please don't go easy on me, Sasuke-san." The proctor began the match after Sasuke nodded and they both got into fighting positions. Ready. Fight. Lee rushed Sasuke at high speeds and threw a kick at him, which Sasuke blocked, but Lee was already throwing another kick with his other leg, which Sasuke ducked under and threw a punch at Lee, who blocked and attempted to punch Sasuke back, but the Uchiha sidestepped the punch and backhanded Lee. Lee flipped and landed some distance away, wiping blood from his mouth and looking at Sasuke, who was keeping a close eye on him. "You're lightning fast. I didn't expect you to be able to keep up with me, Sasuke-san," Lee stated. "Your speed caught me off guard in the beginning," Sasuke admitted, smirking. "I'm not going to make that mistake again." They both threw punches at each other, but Sasuke proved to be just as strong as Lee and neither of them budged. They then moved to a kick, and then when Lee threw another kick, Sasuke quickly jumped and used the other boy's leg as a support as he turned upside down and kicked Lee from above. "That sly bastard, that's my move," Naruto declared from the stands. "You were the one who suggested he copy other people's movesets to add unpredictability to his own," Kakashi pointed out. "He appears to be attempting to add chakra to his blows in order to increase their strength," Karin, who insisted on watching the matches alongside Team 7, said. Naruto understood what she was saying and agreed. "The Sharingan is nonsense." Sakura, who understood, nodded, and Kakashi and Karin's sweat dropped. Indeed, Lee's blocked kick had forced him to his knees and cracked the floor. Lee had caught Sasuke's foot and threw him away, but the Uchiha had recovered midair and landed on his feet. When Lee tried to come up from behind him with a kick, he grabbed Lee's leg and threw him to the ground, and Lee performed a series of backflips and stood across from the Uchiha once more. "You're still holding back on me," Sasuke said, slightly annoyed. "So are you," Lee replied. Lee then came at him with top speed, launching a series of fast punches and kicks encircling the raven-haired boy to hit him from all directions, but Sasuke could see all the attacks coming and blocked all of them. He saw an opening and took a blow to the shoulder, giving him the chance to get inside Lee's guard and punch him in the stomach, sending the boy flying. Sasuke grimaced at the force of the blow and noticed that he had dislocated his shoulder, which he popped back into place with a grunt of pain, while Lee had hit the ground and spat out some blood from the blow, before getting up and looking at Sasuke. "You're very good, Sasuke-san, but I'm afraid I can't let you win. I need to show that hard work can overcome natural talent," Sasuke said with a shake of his head. "Talent is just an advantage. I worked hard for every ounce of strength I have." Lee looked surprised and seemed to think for a moment before looking at Sasuke with respect and saying, "You're right. I need to work even harder to overcome that disadvantage and prove I'm a great shinobi." Lee looked at his sensei in the bleachers for a moment, as if seeking permission, before nodding and saying, "I respect you, Sasuke-san, which is why I'm going all out right now." Most of the genin and even some of the jonin in the bleachers were taken aback by this, as the match below was something that most genin and even some jonin would struggle to compete in at that level of taijutsu. "Guy, what did you teach that kid?" Kakashi inquired. "Lee, my younger rival, is a taijutsu expert. He cannot use ninjutsu or genjutsu, but he is a taijutsu genius," Guy replied. A true hard-working genius, Naruto thought to himself, but Guy heard him and smirked proudly. "He is that. I understand why Sasuke is acting the way he is," Naruto said. "What exactly do you mean?" Sakura inquired, despite the fact that it was clear that the majority of the audience was focused on what he would say. Sasuke could have ended this fight with ninjutsu or genjutsu, but he wants to put his taijutsu to the test and regards Lee as a worthy opponent to do so. Guy said as Sakura nodded. "Lee is a truly remarkable young man." "That he is," Naruto said, nodding his head and a look of respect in his eyes. Despite not having access to two of the three main ninja arts, his drive to become stronger is truly impressive. "I'm going to remove my weights now, Sasuke-san." I'm afraid I'll be too fast for you without them." To the surprise of the other boy, Sasuke simply nodded and smirked. "Go for it." Lee removed the weights from his leg warmers and threw them to the sides, shocking most of the people present with the craters they created. He then stretched in, at Sasuke's nod, rushed at the other boy, who to most genin was just a blur. Sasuke was able to see him thanks to the Sharingan, but Lee was too fast for the Uchiha to react, kicking Sasuke into the air and following him. Sasuke tried to block the second kick, but the strength proved too much, and he felt his arms nearly break as he was catapulted even further up. He managed to throw a punch at Lee, but the boy just disappeared and appeared behind the boy, kicking him down with great force. And Sasuke rose to his feet, spitting blood, but before Lee could continue, he grinned and said, "You removed your weights. It's only fair that I do the same." When Sasuke made a hand seal, black lines appeared all over his body before disappearing, and he stretched his now much lighter muscles. "What was it?" Guy inquired. "Gravity seals," Kakashi replied. "I had no idea you could do that, my young rival." "Because I can't, Naruto did it." Guy looked surprised at the blonde before returning his attention to the fight. Sasuke was matching Lee blow for blow without his gravity seals. Lee was still faster, but with the Sharingan Sasuke was able to keep up with his speed, and with the super strength he had copied from Naruto his blows hit harder than Lee's. They seemed to be evenly matched, and it scared the other genin that there were such monsters competing with them. The only saving grace was that they had been matched up with each other and at least one of them would be eliminated. They stood across from each other after another flurry of blows, both bruised and panting heavily, and both looked at the other before Lee said anything. "I'm impressed. You kept up with me even without my weights." Sasuke took another deep breath before speaking. "You're pretty good as well. I've only ever fought one genin who was stronger than you." Lee grinned and said after seeing Sasuke's expression, "I hope to fight him again later in the tournament." "Oh, I haven't even lost yet. What makes you think you'll get past me?" In other circumstances, Lee would have asked Guy's permission, but here he respected his opponent too much and was so relieved to be respected in battle that he didn't, instead concentrating and starting. 8 inner gates. Opening gate. Open. Guy was surprised that his student would use that technique, and even more surprised that he didn't ask for permission first, when he saw Lee open the first gate. "I hope you're sure about this, Lee." 8 inner gates. Healing gate. Open. "Did you teach him the gates? Are you crazy?" Kakashi stated. "Lee has a dream. I warned him about the risks, but he decided to go ahead with it anyway for the sake of his dream. I'm proud to have such a young student." 8 inner gates. Life gate. Open. "Will Sasuke-kun be alright?" Sakura inquired, concerned about her crush. "Trust him, he'll be fine," Naruto said confidently. 8 inner gates. Pain gate. Open. "You should tell your student to give up Kakashi. He's strong, but he can't help Lee right now," Guy said. It was Naruto, not Kakashi, who responded. "Don't dismiss Sasuke just yet. He might surprise you." This is terrible, Sasuke thought. I'll have to put it to use. 8 inner gates. Limit gate. Open. Lee's skin was red and his eyes were pupilless by the end. He had an aura around him and veins bulging all over his body. He rushed at Sasuke, but to everyone's surprise, Sasuke met him in the middle of the arena, their clashing blows creating a shockwave that blew away the dust. How? Kakashi and Guy were both thinking at the same time. They began a high-speed taijutsu exchange, moving all over the arena, leaving only blurs and shockwaves in their wake. It's that chakra, Karin began but was interrupted by Naruto, who placed a hand on her shoulder, which Kakashi noticed. They traded punches and kicks at breakneck speed, the tie breaking in Sasuke's favor when he went for a punch and Lee moved to block. only for Sasuke's hand to burst with lightning midway through the blow, forcing Lee to redirect the blow or have both of his arms pierced, but he didn't get out of the exchange unscathed. "Did you teach him the Reikiri?" Guy was the one who asked the question this time. While thinking, Kakashi shook his head. Could he have stolen it? But when exactly? "I did," Naruto admitted, surprising both of them. "But how exactly?" "I also did not teach it to you," Kakashi inquired. "I remade it." He said this in response to their stunned expressions. "Honestly, it's just coating your fist with lightning chakra. It took a little trial and error, but it wasn't that difficult. And you didn't think I deserved to know you recreated my jutsu and taught it to someone else without my permission." Outraged at the blonde, Kakashi yelled at him. "As far as I'm concerned, Hitaki, the only thing you deserve is to be on the receiving end of that jutsu," Naruto spat, staring at him. All of the Jonin senseis were stunned to hear this, none more so than Kakashi, who was hurt and said nothing more, instead turning his attention to the fight. Lee began to lose momentum after the injury, and eventually fell to his knees, exhausted and outside of the gates. He tried to get up but couldn't. With the curse mark influencing his thoughts, Sasuke moved his arm outward. The chirping bird noise of the Chidori appeared a moment later. His Sharingan spun rapidly as he tensed to jump at Lee and kill him. Suddenly there was a hand on his shoulder. Guy was in front of his student, ready to defend him. Kakashi was to the side, ready to jump in and stop him, and Naruto, who belonged to the hand, whispered in his. "You are the wielder. You control the tool, not the tool controlling you." Guy rushed Lee to the hospital as the proctor announced Sasuke's victory, and they moved to the bleachers to make way for the next contestants. When they arrived, Karin saw Sasuke's state and moved to let him bite her, but Naruto stopped her, motioning to Sakura and asking, "Sakura, your match hasn't yet occurred. Are you certain you have enough chakra to heal him?" Naruto approached Karin and whispered in her ear as Sakura hesitated for a moment before nodding, and her hands glowed green as she began healing Sasuke. "I don't want you to use that power unless it's an emergency, okay? It is harmful to your health." Karin blushed slightly and nodded. The next few matches went by quickly, and Naruto found little to notice. Shikamaru defeated Kin, a sound genin who used bells on Senbon to cast genjutsu, fairly easily by outsmarting her and catching her with his shadow. The boy was smart and an excellent tactician but was too lazy. Naruto was confident that even if he couldn't match the boy in intelligence, he could simply overpower him. Choji faced Dosu, a genin from the sound who used his arm guards to attack with sound waves. Choji appeared to be overpowering him for most of the match with his human boulder jutsu, but Dosu cornered him and defeated him in a single blow. Sakura then fought Ino, and Naruto couldn't help but shake his head at her because, like Kiba, her improvement from the academy was negligible at best. However, unlike Kiba, she couldn't even focus on her fight because she was too busy casting jealous glances at Karin in addition to Naruto. She had barely noticed Sakura's genjutsu, and by the time she dispelled it, Sakura had already gotten close enough to knock her out with a super strong punch to the face. Naruto was pleased to see how different his Sakura was from canon Sakura at this point in time. Shino fought Zaku, and Naruto sincerely hoped that he didn't fight Shino again soon, or else he'd just torch the boy Inferno style and avoid dealing with the bugs. Bugs, Naruto thought, shuddering. "I know, right," Kurama agreed with a shudder. Shino was able to block Zaku's pressure arms, while the sound genin blew up his own arms when attempting to attack him. Tenten fought Temari and was easily defeated. Temari was simply a bad match for her, with Temari's wind jutsu countering all of her weapons. She tried her hardest and displayed admirable bravery, but there was nothing she could do against the Suna Kunoichi. Naruto couldn't help but say to Kurenai as Hinata fought Neji, "You know, I'm not sure what's sadder." Kurenai gave him a hard stare and said, Are you going to insult yet another of my genin? Naruto said with a shake of his head. She is doing an impressive job considering she is fighting someone stronger, faster, more skilled, and who knows her fighting style intimately. Kurenai was surprised, and Naruto continued. What I meant was her situation. She is a gentle and kind soul who despises hurting others. She has no business being a ninja. Kurenai wanted to respond but couldn't because Naruto was watching her struggle. On top of that, her own family doesn't seem to notice that she requires positive reinforcement rather than the harsh criticism they always give her. It's no surprise she fell in love with me when all I did was show her basic human kindness. So you know, Kurenai said, her voice accusatory. What you want me to do? I can't return her feelings because I don't feel the same way, but I can't let her down or she'll lose her main source of positive reinforcement in her life, so all I can do is pretend I don't notice and hope she finds other people who can do what I've been doing. Naruto softly smiled at Kurenai and said, I'm glad you're her sensei. She needed a mother figure, and I've seen your team help her mental health. Kurenai gave the blonde a new look before returning to the fight and smiling at the determination her young protege was displaying, remembering the shy little girl she had picked up from the academy that day. Gaara fought Yoroi, who didn't even get close enough to drain Gaara's chakra before the Ichibi Jinchuriki crushed him with his sand, leaving him a gory mess on the floor, and Naruto noticed that when he did it, he looked at him and let out a bloodthirsty grin. Kankuro fought Masumi in the last match, who appeared to have the Suna Genin in a submission hold until it was revealed that it was a puppet and the real Kankuro trapped him inside him, winning the match. They all made their way down to the arena to see how the third exam matchups would go. The proctor had them draw numbers before announcing who would be fighting who. The final pairings were as follows. Third examination. Sasuke x Shikamaru. Sakura x Tamari. Kankuro x Shino. Gaara and Dosu. Neji x Naruto. They were told they had 1 month to train and were escorted out of the forest and back to the village proper. Team 7 split up to rest and recover from the battles they had participated in, with Karin following Naruto back to his apartment, where he showed her around and keyed her in on his security seals so she could come and go freely. How are we going to proceed now? Karin asked. I'm going to start training and preparing for the finals tomorrow. There's a few scrolls you might want to study over there and my money is in that scroll. Just don't spend it all. Just channel your chakra like I showed you and the seals will let you in whenever. Oh, and don't tell anyone you're staying with me. I'm not really popular in the village and I'd rather you don't catch flack because of it. Are you staying with me? Karin inquired, her puppy eyes shining brightly. Oh, she's good, Kurama exclaimed. Naruto cupped her cheek and looked into her eyes as he moved closer to her. She closed her eyes, expecting a kiss, but instead he whispered in her ear. You'll have to do better than that. While Naruto laughed, she blushed pink with embarrassment and pouted. The following day. Naruto had just awoken when he heard a knock on his door. He had let Karin sleep in the bed while he slept on the floor in a futon. She had insisted on sleeping on the bed and even offered to share it with him, but he had dismissed her. You're sure you're going to be able to resist such a beauty in your home after all that stressful training, Kurama said, mostly joking. You know, I thought about it, Ino was just for fun, but Karin might be willing to help me achieve my goal. Everything you do revolves around your goal, and you know who you remind me of. Uchiha and his vengeance. That's fair, but you know I'm not giving it up for anyone, but if she wants to follow me. Be careful, brat, she likes you, but I'm not sure if she likes you enough to follow you, even if she did follow Uchiha in canon. Alright, let's get to it when we get to it, okay? Ino had also come around after she awoke, mostly to see who the redhead following Naruto was, and while she wasn't happy, Naruto had told her that there was nothing official going on between them and that he had never stopped her from being in the company of or with anyone else. She grumbled as she left, but Naruto was relieved she hadn't made a scene. He'd rather not deal with enraged crying women. He also explained the nature of his relationship with Ino to Karin, and she only smiled. It worried Naruto that he could feel competitiveness instead of jealousy from her, and Kurama only laughed at the blonde's despair at the prospect of having a harem. They said Naruto opened the door and saw an Anbu there. "Naruto Uzumaki, you've been summoned to the Hokage's office." After saying his goodbyes to Karin, Naruto nodded and followed. Earlier, in the Hokage's office, Kakashi was never on time for anything, but a summons from the Hokage regarding his team changed that. When Kakashi arrived, Hiruzen said, "Kakashi, I'm glad to see you." "Did you call me Hokage-sama?" "I did, and your team has performed admirably in the Chunin exams thus far. A rookie team all making it to the finals is impressive." "Thank you, Hokage-sama, but their accomplishments are entirely their own." Hiruzen nodded and continued. "I called you here to talk about the training they'll be doing this month." Hiruzen continued while Kakashi remained silent. "I'd like you to train Sasuke." "I'm not sure what you mean, Hokage-sama." "Of course I'm going to train Sasuke." Hiruzen sighed, knowing that this would not go down well with the Cyclops. "I want you to concentrate solely on Sasuke." Kakashi remained silent for a moment before growling. "What?" "I want you to make sure Sasuke can survive that fight. He's good, but the redhead has killed all of his opponents so far." "So you want me to train only one of my students and leave the others to fend for themselves?" "Kakashi, I'm sure you don't," Hiruzen began but was cut off. "No. I will not abandon my students when they require my assistance. I will train Sasuke, but I will also train Naruto and Sakura." Hiruzen sighed before speaking. "That's an order, Kakashi." Kakashi said with a growl. "Then you summon them here and tell them, Naruto hates me for abandoning him when he needed me, and I'm not going to let him believe I'm doing it again." "Do you want me to train only Sasuke?" "You inform them of this." Hiruzen sighed and motioned for an Anbu to transport Team's 7 members there. Sakura was the first to arrive, noticing the strange atmosphere but being asked to wait for the rest of her team before explanations could be given. Sasuke followed shortly after, followed by Naruto a few minutes later. "Now that you're all here, I have something to tell you. I have ordered Kakashi to concentrate on training Sasuke for the next month, until the 3rd phase of the exams." They were silent for a brief moment before Naruto spat at Kakashi. "How come I'm not surprised?" "Spare me the nonsense, Hitaki, once a hypocrite, always a hypocrite." "Naruto!" Hiruzen yelled. "I told Kakashi to do it." "I see, so it was cowardice, couldn't you stand up for yourself?" "Enough." Hiruzen filled the room with killing intent this time, causing Sasuke and Sakura to choke and Naruto and Kakashi to feel uneasy. "That is my order, Naruto. I have already prepared a teacher for you." "Who, oh who?" A man emerged from the shadows, sporting white long hair and dressed in red and green shinobi sandals. "I am the Supreme," he began introducing himself but was interrupted by Naruto, who began leaking Kyuubi chakra, turning his features feral, his eyes red, and his fingers into claws. He spat, Jiraiya, his voice rougher and more animalistic. When Sasuke placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath, his animalistic features receded, and when he opened his eyes, they were blue again. "Are you aware of who I am?" Jiraiya inquired, though based on his briefing, he knew the boy most likely did and didn't think much of him. Jiraiya continued, and Naruto glared at him but didn't respond. "Well, for this month, I'll be training you, there's no way in hell." "What?" Jiraiya was taken aback. "No, I don't want any of your fucking training, or anything else to do with you." Jiraiya was taken aback by the blonde's hatred in her voice, but he persisted. "But who will teach you your faith if I don't?" If you finish that sentence, you'll be joining him in hell. No, said Sasuke, shocking everyone in the room. Excuse me, what? Hiruzen inquired. I refuse, and I do not want any training from him. But why? Kakashi inquired. You claim that those who do not obey orders are scum, but those who abandon their teammates are worse than scum, which is exactly what you were doing. And you want me to defy orders? Do you know who disobeyed orders to protect his teammates? Sasuke inquired, but continued before receiving an answer. Hitaki Tsukumo. Sasuke looked at Naruto and said. Kakashi froze before looking down. Realizing he had been acting exactly as the people who caused his father to kill himself, he felt ashamed of himself. Do you believe we can train together? You're still owing me that jutsu. Sure. They both moved to leave without even asking for permission, and Naruto came to a halt at the door, glaring at Jiraiya and saying, This is your sole warning, Jiraiya. Keep the fuck away from me.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.